And that was awkward. We're done. That song should have been in the movie. I don't understand what they were thinking. This like Ice Spice, Nicki Minaj thing, not cutting it.
I know, didn't work. You know what I read though? I read that Mattel, when the Aqua song came out,
that's true.
Mattel actually hated it. It thought it was like horrible for the branding because it made Barbie sound superficial when actually she was like unlimited possibility.
I forgot about that. Yeah, when the song came out, I think they were in a legal battle because they didn't get the rights for the song, but then the song like blew up. Yeah. Okay, that's why it wasn't in the movie.
So
but
funny.
Still,
that's
they
like
should have made amends.
Barbie. Totally. It's also just like proof that Barbie itself is a 3 because the song came out and she's like, no, that's not in my image. Don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, so I wrote down a few points. We can talk about whatever, but I wrote down like 3 kind of points that we will just like bounce off of. The first point was Barbie as the archetype of 3, and specifically Margot Robbie's type, which is like 3-9-7, like DJ and the 3-9 kind of doll fixes. So totally. I don't know. What did you guys think of her and anything related to Enneagram?
I was thinking DJ. Yeah, totally. I was thinking DJ City.
I was kind of getting that. I think Barbie, at least the character. Sorry, my cat's gonna be interrupting the whole time. I think Barbie herself was Bermuda with the 6-wing 7. I think that I don't know how to like totally justify that, but I think it was like 3-wing 2 plus 6-wing 7 that it could still give like the sort of like sugar plum girl boss kind of deal.
Yeah.
And also if you think about the whole like Barbie paradise kind of thing, that is so attachment. Like I was listening to an interview with Greta Gerwig, and she was talking about how every single Barbie is this like, they're all just different iterations of the same person, and that's why they're able to be so like close to each other and love each other so much. And it's
oh my god,
I was like, whoa, like that's so interesting. And it's the same thing with Ken. It's just the casing is different, but they're so similar. That's why they're able to like love each other so much. And the main conflict with Barbie is that like obviously she's at a different location. Like when it compared to the other Barbies, thinking about like freaking death and shit like that, and that's a crisis for her.
Yeah.
It's some kind of like hexad danger that gets inserted into a space. And actually, what you're saying is interesting because them almost being like carbon copies of each other in different casing is making me think of how we talk about image types as being like a picture, like a portrait. So it's almost like I'm handing out different pictures of me. They're all me. And that thing that attachment types always say in their videos, well, or not always, but that like there are different versions of me. So like in this video, you might see this version and, you know, this like different, iterations, images of Barbie all being the same kind of plastic doll.
Well, that's also kind of an iteration of attachment kind of feeling like it needs to find its fixed place. So it kind of crystallizing in all of these individual different places instead of like, I think maybe the story of her becoming human at the end is realizing she doesn't have to be limited to like one image, one representation of herself.
That's very true.
And then what did you guys think of Weird Barbie? Because I was thinking that was kind of like...
that's interesting.
For all the 6s out there, because she is like a head type to me or whatever. She was like the heady, weird head type in you have like image types, and they called her weird and everything, but when like disaster struck, they came to the 6.
That's right. Yeah, true. She had like a 6-wing 7, 7-wing 6 area energy, but that's a good point. Yeah, she was the head in a sea of like heart, gut, sort of like model nothingness, and she was the thinker
and like the strategizer. Yeah, that's a good point. And like the one that was able to like solve the problem, or at least like orient them out of their problem. Oh my god, this cat.
Actually, so speaking of head types, I wanted to talk about what you guys thought of Allan.
Oh my god.
So this is so what's interesting. So Allan is Bermuda, and like, you know, Michael Cera only knows how to play himself. He's not an actor, and he's just like a very phobic 6-wing 7 Bermuda guy, right? And so I thought that casting was great, but it's interesting because I was like, unfortunately, on TikTok again and seeing people talk about this movie, and I realized I walked out and I thought I was saying to Lucas, I was like, oh, you know, there were like no gay characters in this movie, which is fine. It's not like I need every movie to have gay characters, but like it would have just been funnier. And then he was like, oh, was Allan gay? And I was like, I don't know. I didn't get, because in the past when you couldn't have gay characters, you would have these characters that were basically gay, but like didn't say they were gay. But like, I don't think Allan was actually gay, but sorry, this is kind of a long tirade, but because he was the only male there that was like okay with dismantling the patriarchy, it's like two men, or at least terrible men, that means that you're gay. You know what I mean? And it's interesting to me that they had this really phobic, another 6, again, embodying the knowledge that's outside of this plastic world and saying, like, you don't have to be that thing. The 6 is the, like, rebel.
Yeah, it makes sense. And he was also, outside of Weird Barbie, he was the only one who knew the lore, which is, that reminds me of, like, Six's connection to conspiracy theories or history or whatever. Because he was... Right. He's like, Allans have left before. Like, the last Allans that left were insane.
Oh, right.
Like, you're just sitting on that? Like, freaking what? What is going on? That is so hilarious.
I hadn't thought of Allan very much. I know that the history of Allan is he was originally created... No, the history of Allan is that he was originally created to be like Ken's best friend or something, and they like shared clothes, and then they had like a weird response, so he got discontinued. So there's some kind of like... As far as like the as far as the like overall, I don't know how to say this, like theme, he does represent a kind of breach from that, which I guess we were seeing in the movie. I
think it was just I thought about it because I'm like, well, obviously there's this like stupid huge backlash about this movie about like really really insecure men freaking out about how I don't know what they're freaking. It's whatever, like that. Yeah. It's like the first time they've seen a movie that's a big budget that's not like catered towards men, and they're like freaking out about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that I don't even know if this is Enneagram related, but it's just interesting to me. I think that like men who, because this movie is about the patriarchy, I think that most men who are misogynistic are also homophobic, and this really stems from, at least in my eyes, I think men are actually, it took me a long time to realize this, not men, the homophobic men are jealous of women and gay men, because if you have to uphold this hyper masculine thing where you're not allowed to show any vulnerability or any femininity, which is ridiculous because we all have feminine and masculine energies, like it doesn't even have to do with gender or sex or whatever. If you have to uphold that sense of like hardness, it's and I'm talking about it too because it's almost like rejection. It reminds me of rejection types. It's almost like a pseudo 8 thing or something where it's like, I have to be this like alpha male or whatever. You're going to look at women, and even worse so, men who are comfortably embodying that and be fucking jealous because you feel like you can't. And that's going to immediately translate into anger and violence because you're not able to show vulnerability. So it's just interesting that like Allan embodied that, even though in my eyes, I don't think he was actually a gay character. He was just a man that wasn't interested in misogyny. You know?
And he was three-dimensional. He was the most three-dimensional man in the entire thing. Wow. Yeah. That reminds me, it's like, when you do that rejection thing where you cut off your vulnerability or you cut off something that you don't like about yourself, it's sad because you're kind of like destroying your one chance of actually having love. You know what I mean? Because it's like nobody's gonna fall in love. I was watching something or whatever, and the topic of like pick me girls came up, of like girls who like these very conservative women who are just like, oh, like regular women are like really bad, and I try to be perfect for my man. And then somebody was like, you notice that these women are like always single or like in a terrible marriage. Like, why is that? It's because like nobody can love something that's fake. Like nobody can love something that's like a cause of something perfect.
Embodied.
So
Yeah.
So it's like the rage at the freedom of these women, but also the rage at like their own lack of connection and just
it's like it is a rejection. I never really thought, as I was saying it, I was like, oh, it's not 8, but it's a pseudo 8 strategy where it's like, I don't need all of that woman stuff, so I'm just gonna bear. And there's like no male or human species on this planet that like doesn't have need for like warmth and like, I don't know, like it's I don't think it's as simple as like, oh, they look at women and want to put on heels and act like women, but it's just like women are comfortably embodying this like vulnerability and this like feminine sexuality that again is within everybody. That's like one of the things that Enneagrammer has been preaching for years about the sexual instinct, that like these kind of divided gender roles are very like anti-sexual instinct. But yeah, it's just kind of like this Allan is, and I guess to bring it back to the Enneagram, it's interesting that again, he is the 6, the character that is, because there were the only other 6. Okay, actually, and the one other 6 in the movie who again blows things up and is the truth teller is America Ferrera, whatever the hell her name was. Her character, she's the one who's like, I'm gonna burst everyone's like 3-9 kind of bubble, and within that attachment triangle, you have all of life. You know what I mean? Like you don't need hexad to do this job. It's like all in the triangle.
There's something to be said too about the 6s being the reactive type to it, like 9 just kind of flowing with the status quo and 3 needing to embody that like value. And then the 6s come in and they're just like, actually, let's react to everything that's going on here in order to like make the attachment something that feels like actually upheld and sustained. There was something else I was going to say, something about the rejection piece here. Okay, let's see. How do I want to organize this? But there's something about like the Ken. Basically, what I'm hearing you saying is that the Kens kind of represent a sort of like they're truncating something. They're like cutting themselves off from something. And the Kens, right? Is that what I heard? Yeah, that's what I'm understanding. So the Kens are operating from some rejection piece by meaning that they have to like uphold their end, and they only can relate. How do I say this? But they can only find their like sense of completeness in a certain way when the other end of that sort of like full circle is on the other side of them. And so what was happening in the movie is, the Kens representing rejection, I guess, in this context, feeling unvalued, feeling like they're not getting the other side of that full circle. And then the patriarchy was upheld. So it wasn't actually like a, how do I say this? It wasn't actually a separation. It was like a leverage point in order to like be able to receive that other side.
Yeah.
Is that making sense? And then, and then towards the end, it's the actual like, oh, I can find the femininity in myself. Yeah. I'm
exactly.
Not just Ken.
Yeah.
What do you guys think Ryan Gosling is in the movie? Ken.
I think he just played himself. Actually, that was my other point that I guess I wanted to talk about Ryan Gosling, because he was, besides Barbie herself, he was probably the biggest thing in that movie. Just from a casting perspective, they're sitting there and they're like, okay, we need this guy to be hot, but not too hot because then you're not going to like him. He's got to be a total douchebag. So he's going to be a DJ, but you have to like him. So he's probably going to be a 9. You know what I mean? And he's got to be, he just, and then Ryan Gosling, he's just got this really these soft eyes, this like, you know what I mean? Like really like lovable thing, but he's also capable of like because he's got that like fantastic like 7 secondary on 9 where he's just like completely making fun of himself and just acting a total fool and like diving into the douchebaggery of this role, which is necessary. But there's like barely any point in the movie where you're like, I hate Ken, because you don't want to hate him. Like the whole point is he's one of our protagonists, so to speak, right? So I feel like he was playing himself. Like he was kind of just like a 9-wing-8 DJ guy. Like just the whole thing about my job is beach. I mean, that's there it is.
I did feel like he was kind of playing himself to a point where like I've seen him play other roles, but for some, and it's not like I know him at all or I've seen him really in any interview even at all. But something about seeing him in this role, I was like, oh, that's Ryan Gosling. Like he's like really loving playing this just like dumb himbo, just like a perfect embodiment of a himbo.
Perfect.
Yes. I was listening to an interview with Ryan where he was talking about like his characterization for the role, and he's like, Greta Gerwig came to him and showed him a picture of like a forgotten Ken doll, like face down, like forgotten on the street or whatever. And he's like, yeah, like I can play this. It's forgotten.
That's it. 9.
Like, I was gonna say that's also 9. Forgotten. Got it.
Yeah. A corpse on the street.
It's totally 9 DJ, because Ken is supposed to be like this image of happiness and like haughty, whatever. But then he's like, but I saw the real him. The real him is forgotten. And I'm like, that is so sad.
And he is sort of a 9 accessory to Barbie, and Barbie is the 3. She's the assertive. You can't. 3s are not very good at playing lovable douchebags. They're too competent. They're too perfect.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, she's got a lovable quality because she's just whatever. She's just like a nice person and a great actress and all that. But like, she's just too perfect. You know what I mean? But like, the 9/7 STEM guy is the one who can just be like, I'm literally exist. That was the point of him at the beginning. Is that like, I exist in your image. And so, like the 9 doll quality.
I think they even say that in the movie. I think they even say, like, Ken's only happy when Barbie looks at him or something like that.
Yeah. No, which is horrible.
Yeah.
It's just like, 9 boyfriend, 3 girlfriend. Got it.
Yeah.
Like, and also, like, he was like, if he was any other attachment type, he would like advocate for himself a little bit more. Like, why are all the Kens like homeless on the beach? Where's the worker solidarity? Like, beach matters too. Like, damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
it's
man.
interesting because I feel like that's what offended so many men, but it's like, it's not. The whole point of that was that, like, the patriarchy is based on your entire self being in the image of Barbie. Like, that's the point of it. That's the point of saying I am enough. Like, I don't need to spend all my time trying to control and impress Barbie. I can just be myself, and then maybe she'll like me.
To me, there's a ton of like the interplay between the lines of 3, 6, and 9. Not necessarily just 3 going to 6 or going to 9, but just like all of those lines. There's the 3/9 sort of doll, just kind of just like maintaining itself kind of
toy
thing. There's the reactivity piece. But then I think there was a lot of themes of like, I think Barbie and Barbie Land is 3 at 6.
Yeah.
I think it's like everybody embodying their own shine, their own highest potential. And then it moves into like this sort of, let's work with each other. Let's support each other. Let's like create this kind of this teamwork kind of deal.
Yeah.
And then the theme of, I said this already before, but the theme of Barbie moving from like just an image into like an embodied person is obviously her kind of like returning to a 9 place, or at least like integrating 9 into the 3. Going to like a being rather than just appearing.
Right, being more not just an image, actually embodying a humanity. Like 9 is human, and 6 too, in a way, right? 3 is the like kind of the picture, the painting.
Yeah.
I mean, she was literally given the choice, right, between the heels and the Birkenstocks. Birkenstocks were such 9 comfort.
Yeah, right. That's very true. Yeah.
And then
the 6-piece too is like when they're like, all you have to do is go back in the box, and she has this sort of movement to 6 where she awakens and's like, I'm not doing the box. I'm rebelling against this, and I'm gonna run. Yeah.
And then to me, there was like some obvious theme on the sexual instinct not really, but it was kind of like a sexual selection thing when it comes to men's relationship to women in like a binary, basically, because like, you know, not just in the movie, but like the patriarchy is how do I say this, it's the compensation of men realizing that they're kind of irrelevant to women outside of their ability to like be sexually chosen.
That's right.
So the patriarchy is just like upheld in order to like continue their relevancy to women.
Yes.
And so I think this movie actually did a really good job at kind of explaining that. I'm sure that went over some people's heads, but like that's the Kens, you know, part of, we can call it like DJ and 9/8 and, you know, whatever else with Ken, but a lot of his deal was just like, hey, Barbie, what's up? You like, are you impressed with Beach?
Here.
Like, he's just like peacocking to her the whole time. And she's just like, whatever, it's girls' night, every night forever.
Yeah.
You're my boyfriend, but I don't care.
Well, and the point of it, I think that's why I was so confused why there were so many people like freaking out about it or whatever, because it's like the point at the end is like, let's all admit, like Will Ferrell and his ridiculous 7-ish character or whatever, like, let's all just, I guess we could talk about that actually, because there's a 7-piece there that we can talk about, but let's admit that the patriarchy actually hurts everybody, because men have to do this rejection thing where they were in this patriarchy, they were so happy about the patriarchy, but then they still ended up desperately trying to get the attention of the Barbies and then starting a war with each other. So it's like, that didn't work. So it's like the patriarchy doesn't just hurt. It's not saying like the movie wasn't about Barbie being like women are better and men are shit. Like nobody, it's so stupid. Like this isn't a war against men and women. It's trying to be like even at the end, she's like, not every night has to be Barbie night. Like it's just yeah. It's like let's try to do the like now we're at 6 here. Let's try to balance the scales and make it fair for everybody.
What did you guys make of the consciousness raising of all the Barbies talking to each other? Like, first, I found it so fascinating that they were all manipulated like this because there was not enough, like, reactive energy, not enough six energy in Barbie Land.
That's right.
So as soon as a little bit of, like, controversy came, they were all equally
the 6,
brainwashed.
America Ferrera. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how I took it, too.
And then Barbie goes like straight to her line. She disintegrates whatever to 9, and is like,
she does.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you know, I never thought of this movie as
I'm
like
ugly and useless and whatever.
Yeah,
and she just lies down on the street. Yeah,
this is specifically 3 at 9. This is
totally.
And this makes you have to come in sober.
Yeah. You guys, I honestly, it's so true. I didn't realize how much of like a Bermuda masterpiece this movie is. It really is. It's all about the triangle, this whole movie.
And it's like, even when you think that things are going to go like get really fucked up, because it's like, what's going to happen? Like if the Barbies win against the Kens, like what's going to happen to Barbie Land? Are they going to be like evicted? Like, or what's going to happen? Like, are they going to become peasants? Now are they going to be like, is this going to be a class issue where the Barbie bourgeoisie like oppress the Kens? But then that's when the 9 comes in and like you're enough, you're Ken enough. Let's be your family again. And maybe we'll improve your situation. Every single time. It's really fucked up. You do see the magic of the Bermuda Triangle like steadying everything. So all the attachments can still stay, which is beautiful.
Yeah, and then Ken has his own, well, I guess their own specific relationship to individuation, feeling like I am Ken-ough is like I am myself outside of my relationship to Ken and Barbie. I'm just Ken. Like I'm complete in myself.
Yeah, there were so many times in this movie where the 3-9 stem gets woken up by the reactive 6. Like even just at the beginning where she's like, have you guys ever thought about death? It's America. What the fuck is her name in the movie?
I don't know. I just
I need to Google it because I'm just tired of saying America Ferrera.
Because I think it was Sasha's the girl, right? Sasha's the daughter. Who was like the first real dose of 6 energy because she's
Gloria.
the one that calls Barbie a fascist.
She was. Did you hear that those girls are actually the Bratz dolls?
Yeah, I know. I just heard about that.
I was like,
oh,
yeah, that
you
makes
rude
sense.
Bitches. They made them all angry and stuff.
Yeah.
I know.
Brats.
I loved it.
Anyway, Gloria is the one waking Barbie up and making her realize all of this stuff, because before, Barbie Land is this 3-9 kind of like, we don't have a head center, we don't think, we just like float out of our houses and dance or whatever and just exist. And the 6 is like, no, you didn't solve the patriarchy, come to reality. We know that human land is 6, cool. Right? 6 is the human type. Okay, it's the people, the everybody, the thoughts, the ups and downs, the stories, everything, right? So a 6 is what saves Barbie, like pulls her back into human land. And probably Sasha, that character, I mean, the actress looks super 9 wing 8, but like she kind of played a 6-ish role as well. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like snap out of it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it was like, I really think this is more than anything like a real pro-6 movie, because
I know that's what I'm coming to too.
Right? Like I remember when Gloria. Remember when Gloria's character was first introduced? I was like, she was doing that 6 thing of like bringing 2 things together that you would not like when I think of Barbie, I also think of the 3-9 stem of just like perfection. Everything's nice. Everything's perfect, But she brought it, like when she was going through grief and just like the depression of like her situation in the real world, working at Mattel, she went to Barbie and she made like, what did she make. She's like
Depression
existential dread Barbie.
Yeah,
all
yeah.
this stuff. I'm like, this is such a six thing.
Yeah.
It's just like this is something you're
like 6'9"
and
even.
you're
Yeah.
bringing all of your reactivity to it and stuff. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is.
It's
but I
very
thought
true.
it was beautiful because I'm just like, I would never
Yeah.
think to do that, you know. And then also it's like it was such a testament to like how six or just reactive energy in general, like we demonize it a lot, but it also is what brings depth, right? Like every like the 3 and the 9 and all of those characters were made much better off once they dealt with the things that they've been ignoring.
Yeah.
Right? Like Ken having no real identity and Barbie wanting to be perfect so much to the point where like she didn't have a self to really reference.
I have like a David idea here. So really, if you think about this, you'll understand. So if you think of the triangle, right? Like Barbie Land is one-dimensional. It's just a line from 3 to 9. But then they had to create the triangle. Like everybody had to integrate their 6 and complete that triangle. That's what happens at the end. It's not that everybody becomes a 6. It's that everybody becomes a triangle and becomes like a whole human in a full shape. And she becomes human, right? Like it's not so much becoming a 6, but it's 6 is that missing piece, that final human piece that says, okay, you need to be whole. And she, at the end too, what she does too, that like to even further integrate them out of like image and body land, it's like it's the super, I was like laughing in the theater because it's so sexist, where she was like, what about like normal girl, basic, nothing special Barbie, or whatever the hell she said. It's just like, okay, that's like
so funny.
America Ferrera plays that part in every single role she does. She's always just like, I don't have anything together, but like I'm like she's that like like what if we're all just boring and like nothing. Yeah.
But, oh my gosh, but that was totally her also integrating 3 and 9 because before it was like so fucking negative, where she's like,
exactly,
things are okay.
True.
You know
she became a triangle too. Yeah.
She became a triangle too. Yeah. This hasn't, I don't think we pointed this part out yet, but even her whole monologue about like women have to be this, but they can't be that. And they have to be this, and they can't be that. And everything's your fault, but also you have to uphold Like that's 6 bringing all the contradictions to things as well. And introducing all of those, like, no, there actually isn't a like smooth line.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The straight line thing. All right. I didn't realize this was going to be such a pro 6 movie.
Yeah. Well, and it is interesting because it is about this, like, it's about creating a 3-dimensional world on a 2-dimensional one. I mean, okay, like it's not actually physically like Barbie was 3-dimensional, but the fact is that it's like it's missing a certain humanity. It's just a doll. It has image and it has body. It doesn't have thoughts. And so that's what. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it was just like existing and you know, there's like I noticed with, I think, okay, oh my God, my brain just short-circuited. There's like, in some podcast episode, we were talking about like head last. Yeah.
You just went you're in the straight line. Okay. Yeah.
Too much 6. Yeah. Woo. Okay. There's something about like 3 and not, well, I guess, just head. I'm sorry. Oh my God, it's happening again. Image and body first. When there's like no head, it is just like it's just like existing and feeling, and that's it. There's no like navigating, there's no orienting, there's no understanding really even. It's just like be and react, and that's it. Which is, you know, the heart is just like a reactive thing despite whatever object relation we give it. And then the thinking center, folding that into it, just like gives it more it just gives it more dimension. I would say even as like a purpose. Like it goes into like like what are we gonna do?
Totally. And also it like as I was thinking, like 3 and 9 together without 6, it is kind of a hellscape of attachment in terms of like it's the big shadow that they have is like just this widespread conformity and like these hierarchies that nobody is ever allowed to acknowledge, right? So like Barbie Land was good for, you know, generic Barbie and all the normal ones that had like careers and stuff, but like what about that Barbie that's like perpetually pregnant that nobody likes looking at too much? Or like the Weird Barbie, or the Barbie that has like a hole in her back because it was the camera one, you know? It's like there's and then I think towards the movie, towards the end of the movie, they talk about their grievances, and it's like, yeah, it's never been good for you. It's not been good for any of the ones that are not like conformists, and it's only now get like a little bit better because the six came in, and that brings in all the tropes of six and fairness and like equality and all those great stuff.
Actually, her initiation into that head center, the first time that she has to use it is when she's given the choice between shoes, right? If you're 3-9, you don't make decisions. You're not deciding anything about orientation because you're just gut and an image. But now 6 is the choice. It's Adam and Eve. It's the apple. It's that first, like, what do I do? Which one do I pick? Now I have to think. I have to make a decision. And she chooses, but her choice is like, just give me my heels back. Not really actually making a choice, and the 6, the Weird Barbie, is like, no, the choice is this one. And you didn't think. Yeah. So she's like being initiated into her own head center.
I think Weird Barbie even says, I was just trying to give you a semblance of autonomy, and she just didn't take it, at all. There's something also just in like, okay, in attachment land, or whatever, what are the three, I don't know, like what are the differences between all three? There is like the assertive, compliant, withdrawn, but I didn't really see that play out in the movie too much. Those aspects, what I saw more was competency, positivity, and reactivity. And it was like the presence of reactivity in 6 for the purpose of maintaining and upholding and keeping an attachment to like a high quality. Yes. And I think the 6 energy got interjected to be like, we do care about Barbie Land and we like what is being upheld. But it has cracks, it's like the 6 energy was the one showing us where all the cracks were, where all the creaks in the floor were. So let's address that shit or this is going to all come apart. 6 in service.
I think the aggressive thing came in a little bit, or maybe it's still competence when I was like, okay, so why is it all on Barbie's shoulders at the end of the day? Because it's all the 6. Like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But still, they're like motivating the aggressive type or the competency type. And she's the one who ultimately makes the plan and stuff.
I don't know if this is anything too, but like I'm thinking of also the Gloria and daughter bitch, Sasha. Whatever the fuck, Sasha. They, in a way, even though they are 3-dimensional because they're in the human land, in a way, their journey with Barbie, I think, almost was to find their image center. That's why she comes up with a new Barbie at the end. Because first, Barbie shows up, big image girl, and Sasha just like rips her apart and is like, we don't, you know what I mean? And then at the end, they're just like, actually, she represents something. And it just doesn't have to be, like, we can use the head center to make it something that actually works for us, like that representation, right? Like Gloria's like flirting with her head center when she's drawing those pictures of Barbie in a way, but she's not, but she's got problems. She has cracks. She has issues. You know what I mean? But she's kind of like making these images. It's just that the image of what Barbie actually is not integrated into a full triangle yet.
You know what? This is so interesting because there is also a lot of pro 3 stuff. Like it's a pro the entire triangle. The more I think about it, everything, whatever. Yeah. But it's like the reason that like, so Gloria and her daughter Sasha are dealing with like a lot of aimlessness and like not knowing why the fuck they're alive. Kind of that was the darkness that they're dealing with, right? Yeah. And if you think about all the image types, they exist in the heart, and heart is where meaning is. Like there's mental meaning, but then there's motivation and there's
who I am.
Why?
Identity.
Yeah. They totally lost that. And then if you look back in into their own lives, their history, whatever, you see that how close they used to be and how like a little bit motivated, whatever. I think
they lost their heart.
Job, yes, there you go. She was so excited to be an adult, Gloria, and then she obviously she was dealing with the body head reality of life and just like was like, fuck this hard shit. You know?
Wow, guys, this is like surprisingly deep.
I know.
I was like, oh, we'll just wear pink and do some stupid Princess Corp, and I'm like, no, this is really good. Like, this is it. There's some so even without good. Knowing the Enneagram, I think that people have this like innate knowledge of these archetypes, of these energies, you know, in a high attachment world. Yeah, this is really interesting. What do you make of Ruth at the end, that character, of course, she's supposed to be this like almost spirit of a matriarch. But do you guys have any thoughts on how like this whole idea that we have, like how does she come in to this?
I will
To me,
say,
she was a 9. Let's say to me, she was a 9. She was a 9-wing 1 god. Okay, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, she was definitely a 9, and I also think Barbie's interactions with Ruth and also the older lady at the bench, at the park, was very much her like letting go of the 3 perfection a little bit, and like it was like kind of where her heart was. Hey, like you're old and like probably have what was it, cellulite?
The cellulite.
I still think you're beautiful. Maybe like this is a bigger thing. Like I can like relax my anus a little bit and like use a bigger
just, like
concept,
open
you know?
it.
Yes, there you go. And that's totally like a 9 influence on the triangle too, because it's like it like 3 going way too far. It is open anuses.
I can't. Sorry.
Open
So much like social sexual on this call. Yeah.
But it's just like that was like that was totally like a moment of her like going into 9 in a positive way. You know, where it's just like, dude, my life doesn't have to be this fake bullshit. Like I can, why do I have to freak out about having cellulite? I'm looking at this woman and all I see is beauty, and that's definitely like her response to 9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like the acceptance piece.
Yeah, acceptance at 9. So and anytime there's a character in a movie that is a sort of like mother-like, father-like, but godly, almost non-human because they're so wise type of figure, it's always a 9. And often, actually, they have a 7 fix or some kind of 7 energy. Not always, but like think about like Dumbledore.
David's gonna love hearing that.
Yeah. Oh, they don't have a 4 fix, and they're not social blind. So no, it's not that.
Okay, well, roll it back. Too much praise.
No. No, but it's usually like it, or they might have, I don't know, like 3 or 2, like something people-y, you know what I mean? And it's not like a full embodiment of that type, but like I'm just thinking, I'm thinking of Dumbledore, for example, who it's kind of hard to type that character, but he is sort of like a 9-7-2. Like if I really had to type him, you know what I mean? He's like a little bit too assertive for that. I don't know. There's something, it's not quite that, but he sort of embodies this. It's like the 9 humanness and omnipotence of like body. And, you know, David, speaking of David, he's talked about like 9 being like the apex representationally of the Enneagram. It's like that single point where the source of all, I don't remember which one of us said this, but I've made the joke many times that like 9s are like birthed every morning when they wake up and then they die and then they get like they're born again in the morning. Like they're like opening, like coming out of the womb, like every morning, like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then like go into death at night. And like 9 represents that like actual like essence cycle of like humanity. So when she at the end is like, okay, this source, this 9-ish person is offering me like that complete triangle, that full cycle, that's represented at 9. And it's usually played, that actress is a 7, pretty sure. But she plays like a 9-wing 1 with like a 7-ish, 2-ish vibe to her.
Yeah, I agree.
I appreciated the little 6 quip. Like they were towards the end, they were building this entire beautiful idea of this woman, and then they had to throw in the fact that she did tax evasion. I was like,
oh yes,
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, they totally did. I thought it was.
I forgot. Yeah, that I saw.
Yeah,
it
they
was
just
like a couple weeks
lured
ago.
her. Yeah, they like lured her as the creator and like the CEO. So she's like definitely in this own 9 kind of 6'3", or I'm sorry, 9 model of whatever place. And then she talks about how she's just an old lady with tax evasion problems.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. I'm just anytime it's it's you're 6. You're in 6 land. Yeah. Because it's a bringing me down off of the 3 that's here to like level playing field with everybody else at 6 space.
There is something about like Ruth is her name, right? Yeah. Ruth kind of giving Barbie her autonomy back. Like she's humanizing her by saying, I named you after my daughter, Barbara. But also she said, I'm pretty sure she told her, you don't need my permission. Like you can make like your own decisions, you have your own agency, you can do whatever. But this also represents, to me, that illuminated also Barbie's original attachment which was to uphold the image that her creator created her in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so that's bringing it back to that like God, I guess not God, just like 3 attachment place.
Yeah. You don't have to go in the box and the 6 is telling you that. And the 9 is saying to her, you know, you don't have to. Did I have a point? Does anyone want to finish that? I don't know.
And the 9 is saying, you have control over your own destiny. You get to make.
Yeah,
whatever.
you are right. You are okay. So, right. No. Okay. There it is. It's gut boundaries. Right. Like you don't
autonomy.
need. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's like it's there.
We got there.
We understand. We get it. Wait, have you guys like watched interviews with Greta Gerwig? I had a really long conversation like right after I watched the interview with my friend. I think she's a 6.
That's what I would guess.
I would think
just
so.
From her. I've never watched an interview of her, but just her reputation of being like this indie thing, and now everybody's talking about how she's like,
the movie is preachy a little bit.
This big, it's pretty preachy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got 6 as an impression just reputationally.
We haven't talked about stacking. I was gonna say true. Greta Gerwig is social self-pres. I'm almost positive Bermuda. And this movie feels very social self-pres, and Bermuda, we've talked about it a lot.
Yeah. It has a social, I mean, there's the color palette you could say is like social, sexual or whatever, but I don't think there's much sexual in this film. It is.
No, I don't think so at all. Yeah. I was actually expecting it to be more sexual because I just associate those colors to like, you know, the disco ball, dance parties, stuff like that. Just like fun, flirty, but they're actually... Yeah, there isn't much of it at all.
Plastic
I think that's just
and physical
like
and
chewing DJ stuff.
Yes, right, exactly.
Yeah. I was thinking the differentiation between Barbie Land and the real world was very like social self-pres, because it's like we often talk about social self-pres being the critic of society or whatever, and like why do you always got to see what's wrong? But you kind of see what they're fighting for, or I don't know, the utopia that is being kind of used for. When you look at Barbie Land, where everything there's so much infrastructure, obviously everyone is working together. Everyone first off is working, like it's a fantasy land. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, why are we all doing beach? Like we're dolls. Yeah. But like all of them are like, you know, they have like high level jobs, and everyone has a you know society. But everything's perfectly clean and everyone's happy. There's
organized.
And then you go to the real world, and that's where you get the more potent social self-pres like influence, because then we dive straight into politics of like patriarchy, like you know, sexual violence and all this stuff, and that's and I'm like, this is kind of a great differentiation, and like the high side and like what social self-pres is like wanting, and then what they're seeing. You know?
Like the reforming, it upholds that like reforming or not. It points out what social self-pres is aiming to reform.
Yes. Yeah.
Social self-pres. Cool. Yeah.
Because even patriarchy is a social self-pres manifestation, unfortunately.
And it's I would say like the only thing I like didn't like about the movie is that it was not that it was preachy or okay. I liked that it was preachy. I just hate that it sometimes came across as preachy. I wanted it to, like, okay, so for example, there were so many things that were funny, like, come inside, I'll play the guitar at you. It's like, that could come across as preachy, but it's just funny because it's like, it's making fun of something that we've all, you know what I mean?
Experienced,
for example, there was some stuff that was a little bit heavy-handed, like, when Barbie first, just side note, actually, if Barbie Land is 3.9, the human land is 3.6, right? Because it's like worker bee, reality. Yeah. No, and the fantasy of 9 is gone because 9's one of the fantasy types. But anyway, when she first gets in and her and Ken are discussing how they feel about the gaze that they're receiving, she's just like, mine feels bad and rapey. And it was just kind of like, yes, this is a reality, but I was just kind of like, she hasn't had a chance yet to discover, like they just literally were on the boardwalk and she had already discovered You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
the
was like, I
undertone
think
of
it was
violence. Yeah,
the undertone of violence was just like, that's all I like. Okay, it just felt like, you know, it was like textbook feminism that she just like slid into the dialogue, and I was like, I think this is true. I like this message, but I wanted it to be a little bit more like subtle, which it was sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? Like just from perspective of like an art piece, I was like, that felt too on the nose. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And that's like a social
obviously
self-pres 6 mistake, probably.
I was gonna say the exact same thing.
Okay,
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree that it was a little too in your face and not enough like show don't tell.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it was possible that the movie was trying to be like campy, like in the beginning where they're like the one Barbie, I can't remember, she won some kind of prize and she's like, I'm emotional, but that doesn't that doesn't disprove my ability to whatever.
It's too on the
It's
nose.
like,
you know what I mean? It was just like,
but we didn't,
just
you
a
know.
little
You know
bit.
what?
Yeah.
To defend the 6 social self-pres, like I didn't realize so much of these tropes were things that went over people's heads like before this movie, because there's a bunch of people who are online who like know a little bit about feminism like us, who are like obvious, oh my gosh, this is so obvious, this is so like 2006 or whatever. But then there are a bunch of people who are like leaving this movie like in tears, like nothing has ever touched me so much, and like hit every single movie. And I was like, really?
Have you been on social media? Like, I don't know.
This movie, it's been so widely marketed. So like every single person who's seen a billboard is going to see it, and those people aren't always going to be the ones who are online and who are in the milieu. So it's like actually it's a testament to social self-pres in terms of like this is like the most. It's like social, but also pragmatic with the self-pres. Like it's gonna hit the most amount of people and attach.
Right? Yeah, and attach. Yeah, because it was like even that speech that Gloria gave, the whole like wake up kind of speech or whatever. I remember listening to it and being like, I've heard this before, but done better. Like it was no, but like seriously, like there are like people on TikTok that have done a better job at like highlighting. This how difficult it is socially to be like a woman, and so I was just kind of like, it is just a little bit like juvenile and on the nose sometimes. Like that was I mean, I have high expectations maybe like for a fucking Barbie movie, but it actually exceeded my expectations in some way, because I was like, the whole thing about her becoming human at the end, I was like, oh, there's like a full like human arc here, and I actually was like kind of surprised and like appreciated that ending. I was like, there was like they didn't just go all lightness and campy bullshit. They actually did something like real, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, I was fully expecting just like a fun, nostalgic, like flirty pink movie. And then I can't remember where I heard this, but I heard actually that the marketing budget was bigger than the production budget.
I mean,
so
that's
it cost more to advertise the movie than it did to fucking make the movie.
Yeah. But it's blowing everything out of the. I mean, I don't. They're gonna make their money back. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And I do think that there was like a social self-pres like messaging. Come on. There was social self-pres messaging, but I actually do think that like with like Barbie's a 3-wing too, obviously, but there is like with those colors and that kind of buoyancy of her particular trifix. Do you guys think I think it's 3-wing 2, 9-wing 1, 6-wing 7.
That
Barbie,
makes
like
sense.
the character
What do you guys
Barbie.
think? Yeah. I think that it's just like the lightest, like colorful, most colorful kind of like template that you can get from Bermuda.
That would be the Bermuda overlay of 1, 2, 7. It could be the only thing I could say is it might be a 2, 7, 8 overlay, because that can also be like in your face. But because Barbie's so poised and clean, I would like lean 1, 2, 7, and that would be like the brightness of Bermuda.
Yeah, I just think it's like close to DJ, but not DJ. That's kind of how I'm seeing the movie. But anyway, what I was going to say was that I do think that there's a social self-pres messaging, but I think it uses like the social sexual marketing strategy, I think, which is to be like, everybody get in and be fun. And this is like so cute. And don't you want to be involved? And like, let's all wear pink, like that kind of thing. Which I think is like actually why it got the reach it got. Of course, the marketing too. Self-pres is involved. But like it just like permeated the air to where it just like took over the whole world.
I don't even see movies. Like I actually went just because it did have the social sexualness of it was attractive to me. I was like, I have to see this. And then when everybody was mad about it, when I saw everybody was like offended that it was too feminist, I was like, I definitely have to see this now.
Right.
Like I love when like insecure people are angry. But yeah, I don't see movies, but like the marketing was so intense that I remember thinking like, if this movie isn't fantastic, I'm going to be fucking pissed off. But it was good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It exceeded my expectations.
It did, yeah.
I thought it was gonna have like feminist overtones or whatever, but I really thought because it was it's very corporate. Obviously, it's Mattel and all this shit. I thought it was gonna be like I thought it was gonna be really bad. Like it was just gonna all be about body image, and like the whole movie is like talking about Twilight, and that would have actually made me blow my brains out. So I'm really glad that they did a lot of interesting things, I think. And I love. Sorry, the last thing that I forgot about talking about in the movie is I love the song choice.
Oh my god, it was so good. Yeah.
I was like, that is such a good thing to pick up. I've never really listened to the lyrics, but what the fuck is I want to push you around and I want to push you down.
Yeah. I was thinking just even on the subject of social self-pres, like the aesthetic of the Mattel offices was very social self-pres. Again, like just because I brought up Harry Potter, I'm thinking of that. There's a lot of social self-pres in the Death Eaters and the Ministry of Magic, like those just like black and white, like almost like a prison, and everything's the same. The kind of like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
You
really
know,
repetitive patterns. Yeah.
Yes. And also social self-pres because like just with the visuals, you were able to see power imbalances.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
That's right. In the basement got black and white, and then the top officials got all the pink and stuff, and that's obviously where the people who are outside of the company are going to see.
That's
right. Like, damn, this is a good touch. You know.
You're right. The class system. I mean, it wasn't so much about class and oppression, but that's like in the social self-pres arsenal. So it was there. You're right. Like in the aesthetic already, it was just like there. But interestingly enough, again, Barbie Land was almost classless because remember when they show up and they're like, you all just have your own house.
Right.
Yeah.
So another thing I thought of, and this was like Greta Gerwig being a social self-pres 6, and I think maybe if we type the whole movie, it, you know, as we've said, there is like a sort of a heralding of sixness as like a thing we all need. This cat is just driving me nuts.
Yeah, I have one that does this. Yeah,
She's
in all of
like,
the DA videos. You can't see her, but she's just like on my lap. Yeah.
Aww.
He like used to be super obsessed with John, but lately he's been like just all over me lately, which is nice and annoying at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyways, so Greta Gerwig being a 6. So this is, if we take it back, we were kind of commenting on like the sort of feminism 101 thing that was being taught here, and a kind of opinion that like this has all been said before. Is this new news? Because that's kind of how I took it the first run.
Yeah.
I've seen it twice. The first time I saw it, I was just like, that was good and cute, and it had a nice message, and it's great. You know, like I don't think I learned anything necessarily.
No, it wasn't news. Yeah.
Taken this all in before, but I think that in and of itself is a commentary on reactive attachment, which is like trying to get on the same page, and specifically in the head center, it's pushing the same message because clearly people aren't getting it, and I think that's surprising to me because I saw these, you know,
and they didn't.
It was already exactly. What was already commented on was like there were women crying, like being given this like affirmation, and you know, sort of like deprogramming in a way for the first time. But also, so many conservative men had these huge reactions to the point where I was like, "How is that? Is this the first time you've heard that feminism exists?"
I don't understand.
I think it's getting banned in different countries. It's just been banned in 2 countries this morning. I was like, damn, like this is a powerful.
Banned, I know, but it's not because when something becomes popular, when it goes into the attachment sphere, it's now you can't ignore it. It's like floating around in the triangle, kind of like making its rounds. It's like other stuff can kind of just like, you know what I mean. But now everybody's like, Piers Morgan was like, if they made a movie that treated women as bad as like the Kens were treated, everybody would be upset. I'm just like, that's every movie, you dickwad. Like every fucking. Have you seen like? Do you remember American Pie? Do you guys remember? Because like we're of that like generation. What the fuck? Like go back and watch anything. But even now, it's almost like the movie wasn't marketed to men, and that's making everybody so mad. Cause it's a girl movie. It's just like. Okay, so like don't like what are you mad that a popular movie isn't for you? Like, just
it's like get used to it.
Yeah.
This movie made so much fucking money that I know that it's going to completely change the industry.
Totally.
Like, the next
like they just forget that women want to see movies and have money. It's like and they do the same thing with gay movies. Every time they make something, it's just like, even if we hate it, every fucking gay in the world goes to see it and gives it money because we're so desperate for gay content. And they're like, like, I wonder, I guess they're like human beings.
Is this an agenda? Like, yeah.
We don't, it's like every movie has been, like every movie's sort of standard marketed towards the white man. And it's not like the white man's fault or whatever. Like, this isn't like, you know what I mean? But it's like, that's the point. Like, this movie wasn't marketed. Like, again, you're watching a movie, I know it's like a random example, but if you're watching a movie like American Pie, it's like a group of white dudes who want to fuck a girl. And there are girl characters, but they're all like either sluts or good girls that turn into sluts, or they're just like objects for the enjoyment of. And if you were female or a person of color, you would still watch the movie because you're just used to everything not being about you. And here's a movie that's about you and everybody's angry. It's so stupid, you know?
Totally. So I think there's something in the like atmosphere about like, oh, this was a 6 that got it right in individuated truth, and now it has to put that into the collective, and it's going to do it in a reactive way where it's like, no, you're gonna fucking, you know, 6s can be like super annoying in that way where they're just like, no, you haven't gotten it yet, you haven't gotten it yet.
But it's true.
So Greta Gerwig being a social self-pres 6 is like, this message is already out there, but people haven't fucking got it yet, so let's push this, let's make it an enormous big budget thing. I know she's not in charge of the budget, but still, let's like, oh my goodness, little chonker.
Yeah,
he's angry.
I mean, even just the amount of reactivity.
Her reactive yes.
Oh, she was just in the litter box. Perfect.
It's like, even if you think of the so I was listening to another interview with her, and she was talking about how the movie took so long to make because they were constantly in fights with Mattel and like the studios and like, even that you need to have a lot of reactive. Like, I wouldn't be able to do that.
A lot of push. Yeah.
Like go fuck yourself. But she's just like, no, like, we can do it. You know.
Yeah, you have to stick to your guns.
Exactly, and Margot Robbie is also a producer on the movie, and so Greta was complimenting her and saying, like, you know exactly like what to say to people to like kind of get what you want, but also to make sure that like we're never gonna go across the same bridge again. And I'm like, okay, so there's some aggressive energy, competency energy, and then also here's the reactive energy of just like, this is what I wrote. I'm the one who wrote the fucking script, and I'm gonna fight for like every little, you know.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think this little trio worked out.
It did, and it was good.
Lots
of fun. Yeah,
we had a good little play back and forth.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And actually, we are triple fantasy right now if you take our core types. So you know there's something weird's going to happen.
Yeah. And also
all day. This is why we have such